Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to our YouTube channel. And as promised, we're finally going to get into Laravel. We have had some requests to this tutorial. So in this series, we're not just going to be covering the fundamentals of Laravel. We'll also be building a project from start to finish. And in this video, we're going to take a look at what we will be building, and we're also going to talk a little bit about Laravel and some of the things that it can do. By the way, guys, if you are new to this YouTube channel and you want contents about programming tutorials, so we have a lot of topics like Java, PHP, Python, and other topics available. So I highly suggest that you subscribe to this YouTube channel and press the notification bell so you'll get updated whenever we have a new upload. Alright, so before we get into what we will be doing, let's talk a little bit about what Laravel is. So Laravel is an open source PHP framework, and creators of Laravel have said many times that they aim to make the development process pleasing without sacrificing the quality. So Laravel is very elegant and things just kind of seem to work together very nicely. Also, Laravel is not only popular but also respected today. And Laravel uses the MVC or Modal View Controller Design Pattern. So we will be talking about that throughout the entire series. But the basic idea is that the modal deals with the database. The view is the user interface that displays in the browser. And the controller handles requests which come from either URL or forms such as the post, get, delete, and other requests coming from URL and forms. Alright, guys, these are the topics that are included in this particular series. So I think we already covered the first one, which is the Laravel overview. So we have discussed some of the strong points of using this PHP framework and also some of the advantages of using Laravel. Also, I'm going to guide you in the installation or setup so we could get up and running with this Laravel framework in our local development machine. And also in this series, we're going to build a website in a blog application with authentication and access control. And of course, at the end of this series, we should be able to deploy our own or our very own Laravel application. Alright, so now that we get that out of the way, let's talk about what Laravel actually does for us. So why would we choose to build an application with Laravel over just building it straight up from scratch? So actually there's too many reasons to list. So I listed here the important ones. So Laravel handles routes in an extremely simple way. You can simply define what URL and what type of request that you want to handle. Now, most MVC PHP frameworks do this as well, as you know, such as codeigniter, Cake PHP, but some of the routing files are really difficult when it comes with expressions and dynamic URLs and things like that. So Laravel makes everything very, very simple, which make it a great candidate for RESTful API. And also Laravel adds a security layer to your application, so it automatically escapes what it needs to, and it also implements cross-site protection with forms and submitting to the database. So whenever we are submitting data to our database, Laravel takes care of the intricacies of the security inside our application. So among other things, working with database is also easy or very easy. Laravel is shipped with an awesome command line tool called Artisan, and it lets us do pretty incredible things with just a single command. So one of those things is to create database migrations. Laravel also uses the Blade template engine to display views. So it means that we can extend layouts. We can use control structures like loops and conditionals right inside the HTML. So there's many different ways to implement authentication, but Laravel sets that up for us to automatically create migrations and to create the user table. And all we have to do is run a simple artisan command to enable everything and enable authentication. Also, Laravel can handle sessions. So we're going to do that, or we're going to discuss that later in this series. And also, Laravel provides us with mechanism to compile assets with all the intricacies of storage and file management. And also it comes with error handling. So error handling is very important, especially with bigger projects, and it is very important to have this type of module or type of feature in a framework when it comes to handling errors. And also we have the unit testing, but I think we're not going to touch that in this series, but it's worth mentioning that Laravel comes with unit testing mechanism. Also, email configuration for SMTP. So if you wanted to have like a verification email sent from your application and things like that. And Laravel also handles cache pretty well. So these are just some of the things that some of the benefits to using this framework. So as far as the environment goes, our development environment, I'm going to be using Windows, and we're going to use WAMP, which gives us an Apache server, PHP, and MySQL on our local machine. But Laravel is completely cross-platform, so even if you are using Mac or using Linux, you can use SAM, or you can use something like LAMP or MAMP for your development. Installing Laravel is also pretty easy. We're going to use Composer, which is a dependency manager. So this is kind of like an NPM if you are a JS developer. So we're going to install that, and then we're going to run this simple command to create a new Laravel project. So by the way, you can download the Composer from getcomposer.org website. I think I have already mentioned that Laravel comes with the Artisan CLI. So it will enable us to handle many tasks. So number one is to create controllers and models. We can use Artisan CLI command for that when we are trying to create controllers and models. And later on, I'll be showing you some of the example commands that we can use for this particular task. So creating database migration files and running migrations, also we can use the Artisan CLI for that. Create providers, events, jobs, form requests, and other tasks related to this. And also we can show the routes. We can also issue session commands. We can also run Tinker, and also we can create custom commands by using the Artisan CLI. And these are the examples of Artisan commands. So we have the PHP Artisan list. We also have Artisan help migrate. Also Artisan make controller and new controller. And here's the one if you want to make a model. So Artisan make colon and then model and then the name of the model and hyphen M or dash M. And also we have the PHP Artisan migrate, and last example here is Artisan Tinker. So all of these commands, or some of these commands, we're going to use later in this tutorial series, and other commands that probably we need in our development process. And for today's video, we're going to tackle about the environment setup and Laravel installation. So this is the second part of our Laravel tutorial series. So first thing first, we need these tools. So we're going to install WAMP server for our server. So this will provide us with the PHP, the Apache server, and the MySQL installation. Another tool that we're going to need is the composer. So accordingly, it is a dependency manager for PHP. So if you don't have already the composer in your installation or in your environment, in your local machine, so you can go ahead and install the composer to your local environment or local machine. So I'm gonna be putting the link in the description so that you'll be able to follow along, or you will be able to install the composer and as well as the WAMP server. So again, if you're using another or other platforms such as Mac, Linux environment, so you can still use other version of the WAMP server. I think they have the LAMP and the MAMP, so you can use that as well. So for this tutorial, we're going to use WAMP server, the composer, alright, and we also have the Git, so you can download this as well and install in your local machine. So we're going to use these tools later on, and also if you want, you can also download and install the Atom code editor, but any editor will do. But for this particular tutorial series, we're going to use the Atom.io or Atom editor, code editor. So it is available for Windows, so you can go ahead and install this also. So once you have downloaded and installed these softwares or tools, you're ready to install and set up your environment, and also install the Laravel for your projects. Alright, our next step is to create our Laravel project, and in order for us to do that, we need Bash or Git, but actually we can use the Windows PowerShell for that, for as long as the composer is integrated to that particular command line or command prompt or the Windows PowerShell. So let's open up our Windows PowerShell. There you go. And I'm just going to change the font here so that you can see what I am typing here. So instead of 12, let's make it like 24. Okay, I think that's better. And currently we're here at this directory, users and then admin. So we want to change this directory and go to our localhost directory. So cd that and another one. So if we try to check our directory, we have here the WAMP64. So make sure you have installed already your WAMP server. So I have here the WAMP and also the directory for our server, which is the www. So now let's create our project here by typing the command composer and then create project and then the keyword Laravel /Laravel and the name of our application or the name of our directory. So for example, if you have a project learning management system, so you might want to name your project as LMS, like that. Or in our case, because this is for programming knowledge, so this is programming knowledge project, something like that. And then press enter, and then we will just wait for a few seconds or minutes and allow the installation to finish. So I'm just going to pause the video, and there we have it. After few minutes or few seconds, we already have created our Laravel project, and then we try to check this project in our code editor, which is the Atom. But like I've said, you can use other code editor that you prefer. So some of you, I think, prefer Sublime, and me personally, I prefer the Atom code editor. So let's go ahead and try to check this project in our code editor. So here we are at our code editor, and let's try to open up the project, our very own Laravel project. So let's go to File and Open Folder, and let's try to find the PK project or programming project, and then select folder. So this is how the project looks like in our file system. And if you try to check, if we try to open up this in our browser, so let's check this, and let's just close this, and let's try to go to localhost and then PK project. So as you can see, we can see the structure of the directory of our project, which is the PK project that we have created by using the composer. So this is a security issue because we can see how the project is structured, but we don't want that. We want to see the home page of our application. So if you try to type in public localhost pk project / public, so this is the page that we want to see. This is the home page of our currently created project, Laravel. In order for us to configure this project properly, we need to add a virtual host. And if we try later on, if we try to browse to our project, we should not see this file structure right here. So this is something like, or is somewhat ugly for us to see the file structure here. So let's go to localhost by typing in localhost, and then here we can see the configuration of our WAMP server. There you can see, and under tools we have here an option to add a virtual host. There you go, and we just need to add a name of our virtual host. So for example, project PK project that location or .loc, and then probably you need to type in as well the complete absolute path of our virtual host folder. So it just literally means that we need to provide the complete path of our project folder. So 64 and www / the name of our project, which is the PK project, programming knowledge project, and / public folder. So it means that whenever we have, or whenever we browse our project by typing in pkproject.loc, it should redirect us to the public folder in which we can see the homepage of our application. So there's an option here at the bottom to add a port or listen port, but this option or this field is optional for now. So let's try to start and create the virtual host here. So the files have been modified, and virtual host pkproject.loc was created. So we need to refresh or we need to restart our server or WAMP server or the Apache itself. So you can go ahead and try to restart here, restart all services, so that the virtual host that we have created will be added to the server or the WAMP server. So after a few seconds, we can go to the browser and try to browse our virtual host, which is pkproject.loc. There you go. And where is it? pkproject. So there's an option here that did you mean to go to pkproject.loc? Yes, of course. And there you go. You can see our project, pkproject.loc, and redirected to the homepage of our project. And this is what we see. So instead of this ugly file structure of our project, so we can see here the server of our project, and this is the third part of our Laravel tutorial series. And in this video, we're going to tackle about the basic routing and controllers. But before we do that, let's just run through the code or structure of our project right now. So as we have mentioned before, Laravel uses the model view controller or MVC format or structure. So here in our project, there's specific areas for those types of things. So there's specific areas for the model, there's a specific area for the view, and specific area for our controllers. So we're going to get to that later on this video. And if we try to open the app folder, here we can see the user.php file, which is, this is actually a model, and we won't go through the code right now, but this particular file is a user, or I mean a model user.php, and we can add all the models here inside the app folder. But we can actually use, or we can actually have another folder here. So you can add project folder here and try to name it as models. If we have like 50 or 100 models for our project, so we can add a subfolder for this app folder. But if you have only maybe less than 10 or less than 20 models, you can just leave it here inside the app folder. And also, if you try to open up the app folder and under HTTP and then controllers, here we can see the base controller.php, which is extending the base controller, and all the methods and functions of this base controller, we can use it in our controller files. And also Laravel creates a folder for the other controllers, such as the login controller, register controller, and reset password controller. So all of these controllers, we can use we can use this readily if we try to enable the auth for our project. And if we try to create a controller, we can actually manually create a file here, or that PHP file, which is for our controller. And also we can use, or we can create a model by just manually adding it here. But the best way for adding controllers and the model is by using the artisan. Now, if you're wondering what is this namespace app, so this is just basically grouping our classes or our code. So this is pretty common, especially if you're working the object-oriented way of programming. So we're just basically grouping our classes and try to distinguish between different classes and the same classes inside this directory. And also, if you see the illuminate here, don't get confused. It is just basically a core files or core functions coming from the Laravel, so don't worry about this. Now, views are gonna be on the resources folder, and under resources, views, and then here we have the welcome.blade.php. And as we all know that Laravel uses the Blade templating system, so it is just basically an HTML with dynamic mechanism in them. So we can see if statement, we can see loops, we can see variables by using the blade templating system. Okay, so now that we get that out of the way, we can go to basic routing for our project. So basically, what we want is to add a pages controller where we can add the about pages, home pages, contact, or any other page that we want to add in our project. So if we try to go to our project and routes here and web, we can see here that we have the route and colon and then the type of request that we want, and then the URL, and of course the function that returns something or put a lot of operation inside this function. So we'll try that for now, and let's try to open up our project in our browser. So here is our project and pkproject.loc/. So here's the home page where we can see all the links and the title Laravel. Now let's try and go back to our code and try to edit, and instead of returning the welcome, we can just return something like a text or string. So return hello world, something like this, and then save, and let's go back to our browser and refresh. So as you can see, we have here the hello world text that we can see, and it is coming from our router or route and get, and then the URL, which is the / represent the homepage of our project, and of course the string hello world. Okay, so for now, let's copy this and let's just return this to the original for our index. So this is the home page of our app or application, and this will be the hello page of our project. So this is basically, we're just going to display hello world, and we can also add HTML tag in here. So just like that, and then save, and let's go back to our browser and refresh. So pkproject.loc, this will be the home page, right? And if we try to add hello here, it will display our updated hello world string, and this is with the h1 tag. Now if you are trying to submit the form or you are going to delete something, so you can just change this into post if you are submitting by a form. So working with the route is very easy. So say for example, we have pages in our project, and let's try to go to, where is it, resources, and then we want to separate our pages here. So let's just add a pages folder, and in this folder we're going to create another file, which is the name of our file will be the about.blade.php. Okay, so in our about.blade.php we can just say about. Okay, save that one, and let's go back to our route file, and instead of, I think we're just going to change this into get, and then let's just copy and paste this here. So instead of hello, so we're just going to name it about, or the URL will be /about, and then instead of returning the HTML. So we're going to return the view now, and notice that we have the about view inside our pages folder. So we're just going to add pages and then add that or period there, and then the keyword about. So let's try it, save the file, and let's go back to our browser. Okay, so here we are at our browser, and instead of using the hello, let's change it into about. So as you can see here, we have the about word here that is coming from our about.blade.php file. And also there are times that we need to submit dynamic values in our request. So say for example, we want to submit or we want to request a user with this particular ID. So let's go back to our web.php file and let's just copy this. So instead of just using the about, let's change it, I think, for change it to users. And then in order for us to be able to submit an ID, so we can just add a placeholder here, and this will represent our ID. And inside our function, it should have a parameter ID that represents the ID of the user. So instead of returning the view for now, let's just display this is a user, and then we're just going to add the name or the ID of the user. So let's just save this and go back to our browser and refresh. So instead of using the about, so let's go ahead and try to open up the users and let's try to submit 15. So this is a user 15, or so for example, name of the user is Joe. This is a user Joe, but most of the time we are requesting a particular ID, and then based on that ID we can query that into our database. And welcome to this Laravel for Beginners tutorials. And in this video, guys, we're going to discuss how to work with controllers inside our Laravel project. And as a sort of review or recap, in the previous video we worked on how to use the basic routings. So we have discussed basic routing in the previous tutorial, and like I've said, in this tutorial we're going to discuss controllers. But firstly, we need some configurations, especially if you are using the Atom code editor. So basically, we're going to install some packages required for us to continue working with our Laravel project. So one thing that we need is the terminal, because by default, terminal or the built-in terminal of Atom is not currently installed. So we need to install the Atom terminal for this particular code editor. So in order for us to do that, we need to go to File and then Settings, and then under Packages, we can see all the packages installed here in our code editor. And in order for us to install, so let's go here in the install section, and then we need to search for Atom terminal, and then we're going to use this terminal for us to issue command by using the artisan for us to create controllers automatically. So there are a lot of terminal available if we search for terminal inside the Atom code editor, but I'm using this one. This is Atom-terminal 0.8.0. So accordingly, it opened terminal the current files directory. So whenever we activated this terminal, it will be inside the current files directory. So go ahead and try to install that. So it is developed by Karen. So as you can see here, and this will be our basis, and we will be using this to issue commands by using the artisan to create our controllers automatically. So after installing the terminal, we can finally issue artisan commands by using the built-in Atom terminal. And in order for us to activate that, we need to press Alt-Shift-T in our keyboard. So Control or Alt-Shift-T, and then this will be, or this will open the current files directory, which is the name of our project. Currently is MK or PK project. And then from here we can issue the artisan command to create the controllers of our project. So let's try to issue command or either issue artisan command to create our controller. So the keyword for that is we need to use the PHP and then artisan, and of course the keyword make. Next to that is the controller keyword, and of course the name of our controller, which is pages. So for example, we're using pages and then pages controller. So you might want to use this code, or I mean the naming notation. So all the first letter of the word or any word is capitalized. So example for this, the P in the pages is capitalized, and of course the C in controller is capitalized. So every first letter of words in our controller must be like this, like a naming convention for our controller. So after that, we just need to press enter and then wait for a few seconds. And there you have it, controller created successfully. And then if we try to check our app directory inside here under HTTP and then controllers, and then there you can see the pages controller.php file has been generated with all the necessary terms and code included. So we have here the namespace app HTTP controllers, and also it automatically added the illuminate HTTP request, and then created a class pages controllers, which extends the controller class. And any controller that you created should extend the controller class. And inside here we can create a function or method. So a function inside the class can be called a method also. So public function and then index. Okay, so public means that we can access this outside of this class. So for now, let's just say it will return a text or word index. And let's go back to our routes folder and web.php. So we have here the index set up like this. So instead of using this, so I'm just gonna go ahead and comment this out and then paste it here. So instead of using this function to return our index, so let's just try the pages controller, or we'll try to use our pages controller here. So first let's use the quotations pages controller and @ symbol, and of course the method or the function that we have defined, which is the index. And now let's try this in our browser. So I'm just gonna save this web.php and go back to our browser and try to refresh. So as you can see, we are on the root folder or the root directory of our file or our project, and then it says the index, which is coming from our pages controller and index method. So now we want to return the view index instead of this string index. So let's go back to our code editor, and in here let's go to pages controller, and instead of returning the index, we just need to return the view, and of course it should be under the pages and then the file index. So currently I think we don't have yet the index.php file, so let's just go ahead and create that. So under resources, so we have here the views. So Under pages, let's just go ahead and create a new file. So this should be index.blade.php, and let's just try to copy all the HTML from welcome.blade.php to our index.blade.php, and we're just going to delete this content from here. And I think also the styles, all the stylings available here. Let's just delete this, and of course this font. And for the title, uh, we're going to get back on this later on, but for now let's just define a tag here, h1, and then welcome to Laravel for beginners, right there, beginners from programming knowledge, and then paragraph. There you go. This is a Laravel tutorial series. Okay, so if you try to open up the .env file, it holds all the connection, like the values for our database connection, the database name, the password, username, and all other values. And also it holds the app name of our project. So it currently it says Laravel. So instead of Laravel, I'm just going to rename this PK project, or programming knowledge project, and save that, and go back to our index.blade.php. So instead of using the Laravel as title here, let's just use the config file. So config, and then open close parenthesis, and app.name, and if that is not available, let's just use pk project. Okay, and save that, and let's go back to our browser and refresh our page. So as you can see here, we have the new HTML coming from our index.php. Welcome to Laravel for beginners from programming knowledge. So this is a Laravel tutorial series, and this reflects all the content from our index.php file. So as you can see here, the code, or the HTML code behind this page. Okay, so for now, let's just do the same for our about page. So let's just copy this and go to our about.blade.php file. So instead of using the about, so let's just paste the HTML, and let's just change this. Instead of welcome to Laravel for beginners, it should be about, and let's just say here that this is the about page. And while we're at it, we're just going to do the same for our services. So we need to add a new page. So this will be services.blade.php, and paste the HTML, and of course change this into services, right? And this is the services page, right? So save that. And I think I have misspelled the blade, so I just name this into blade instead of bladed. And for our page controller, or pages controller, we need to define functions as well. Two other functions for our services and about. So instead of index, this should be for about. So pages.about, and this will be for our services. So services, and save that. And in our route file, instead of using this routing mechanism, so let's just replace them with our newly updated functions from pages controllers. So let's just copy this. This will be for about, and of course change this into the about method. And this will be for our services, and this will be
services as well. So save this and let's go back to our browser and try to check if all are working. Okay, so try to refresh and then let's go to our about page. So as you can see here, we have updated our about page, and of course if you try to go to our services page, so services, and there you have it. This is the service page of our application. So I think that's all there is to it for this tutorial, and in the next video we're going to discuss how to go about blade templating, because currently we're using our HTML for our about, for our services, and for our index.php file. So we want to reuse and reduce the code for this particular file. So we're going to look at how to go about blade templating. And in this video, we're going to talk about blade templates. And of course, as a sort of recap, from the previous video, we worked with the controllers, and we set up controllers by using the artisan. And as I've said, in this video, we're going to talk about blade templates. So let's go ahead and create a new folder inside our resources folder, and under views. So we're going to create here a layout directory. So new folder, and then we're just going to name it layouts, because as you can see, if you try to open up our pages, the about, the index, and the services, you can see we have repeating HTML for our services page, our index page, and our about page. So we'll try to minimize that by using our layouts files. So under layouts, this is under view. So under layouts, we will create a new file called app.blade.php, and then we're going to substitute, or we're going to add some keywords here that will enable us to minimize this repeating HTML. And inside here, we're just going to copy the HTML from our about blade.php and paste it here in our app.blade.php. And in here, we'll just say at symbol and then yield, and then keyword content. So save this, and inside our index.php, so instead of using all this HTML, we'll just delete this, and we'll just leave this h1 and paragraph tag, and at the top we'll just say extends, and then open and close single quote, and then layouts that app. So the reason behind we put layouts that app, because this particular layout belongs or under layouts folder, and the name of the layout is app. So that's why we extend layouts.app here. And of course, let's just delete this also, the body and the HTML tag. And in here, we're just gonna put at section, and it should be the content right there. And in here, we'll just end the section. Okay, there you go. Let us save this and copy all this code, or maybe here, and then go to our about.php. So instead of using all this HTML, we'll just replace that and put the end section there. Same thing with our services. So remove all that HTML and type in the end section here. So let's go ahead and try to preview if all of our code are working. So here we are at our index. Let's just refresh that, and as you can see, our index.php file is still working with all the h1 and paragraph tag there. And if we try to go to about, it should work as well. And of course the services. Okay, so this is the index, right? So maybe we'll just change this text and try to see if it's working, or if it's really working or not. So let's go back to our code editor and index.blade.php. So welcome to Laravel for beginners, and we'll just delete that, save our file, and let's go back to our browser. Refresh. There you go. As you can see, the h1 tag only contains now the welcome to Laravel for beginners text. So in that manner, we won't have to repeat all the ugly HTML that we had before. And now let's try if we want to pass some values or parameters to our blade templates. So let's go to our pages controller in the app, in HTTP, and then under controllers. So pages controllers, and let's try to pass some values or parameters to our layout by just using this mechanism here. So let's just say title, and then welcome to programming knowledge, something like this. Programming knowledge, there you go. And actually there's two ways on how to do this, but I'll show you both ways on passing values to our template. So the first way is this. So let's just pass parameters. So view, and then compact there, and pass in the title as the parameter. And let's go to our index. So instead of using this text here, let's type in curly braces and then title. There you go. And let's try to save this and go back to our browser. So this is the original text, welcome to Laravel for beginners, and let's refresh our page. So I think we have an error, use of undefined constant title assumed. So I think we forgot to type in the $sign or money sign. So instead of only the title, we'll type in the $sign for our placeholder, and then save that and refresh. There you go. As you can see, welcome to programming knowledge. So let's just to make sure, let's just change something here in our text. So instead of the title, let's just say welcome to programming knowledge, and then let's try to add a mark there, or the exclamation mark, and refresh our page, and there you can see welcome to programming knowledge with the exclamation mark. Another way of passing parameters to our layout is by using the keyword with. So instead of using this, let's just comment this out and paste it here, and also change this. Instead of compact, let's just say with, and of course the title keyword and the actual variable title. Let's just go ahead and do the same thing for our about pages. So in here we can pass in the about us text, and this should be with, and of course title with the actual variable title here. And also in this particular method, we can pass in multiple data by using array. And instead of using the title variable, so let's just say data, and then we will define an array here, array. And inside this array, let's just say we have a title here, and then services. Okay. And of course, we need to pass this to our services page or services layout with the keyword with. Let's just not forget the greater than sign, and of course we can use the data variable. And let's just go to our pages, the about. So instead of using the about here, let's just go ahead and type in the title. And also for our services, here we can just say title. There you go. So about and our services, and including our index.blade.php. And let's try to refresh our page, and let's go to our about page. As you can see, we have here the updated about page and also the services. With, I think we have misspelled the with, so let's try to change that in our code editor. So services, I think it's in our pages controller, and of course by deleting the D because we have misspelled there, and refresh, and there you have it, services. This is the service page. And for today's video, we're going to discuss about how to compile assets in our Laravel project. But first, let us try to pass data as an array of values. So last time we pass parameter as array, but what if we try to pass data or an array of data inside an array? So we'll try to do that here in this video, and let's go ahead, and instead of passing only the title, we'll just pass another array of data here. So services, and then we're going to add regular array here for our services. So number one will be web design. The second one is programming. Third will be SEO. Alright, so since we're passing this services inside the data array, so we should be able to access that in our services.blade.php file. And in order for us to do that, we need to check if if the services array contains something. So we could add a logic here. So if count and then the services is greater than 0, and below here, let's try to add the and if. There you go. And of course, we need to iterate our services array if it is not empty. So add for each, and then the services as service, and we need to add also the end of our for each. And of course, inside this for each, we need to, like, if we need to add the li for our service, something like that, and then we need to get the servers itself, and we need to add the ul for our, or inside this if statement. So ul here, save, and let's try to preview our page. This is the home page of our application, and if you try to go to services, we can see here we have the data coming from our pages controller, and we're passing the data including the web design, programming, and SEO. Now let's talk about compiling, or how to compile assets in our Laravel project. So before we proceed, let's download first the Node.js. So if you're Windows user or Mac OS X user, so there's available installer for you, and you can have the 32-bit, 64-bit options, but we'll just try to install it by using this Windows installer and install it in our local machine. So after downloading, we can just install it right away. Open up the installation package, and then try to click on next, and then accept the terms and the license agreement. So next, and then the installation path, and then next, and then make sure to enable all these options here, the Node.js runtime, the npm package manager, online documentation shortcuts, and then add to our environment path, and then next. And there's an option here to automatically install the necessary tools, and there's a note that this will also install the chocolatey, and the script will pop up in a new window after installation process. So to save us from trouble, so let's just enable this, and then next, and install, and then we'll just wait for a few seconds to enable the Node.js installation to complete. And then after installation, we we should be able to, like for example, include Bootstrap in our project, to include other dependencies for our project, and so on. And now that the installation is complete, so let's go back to our project. Here we are. We can try to open up our PowerShell window, and then let's try to uh, see the version of our Node.js. So we have the version 12.13.1, and also we can see the version for our npm, which is also 6.12.1. So by this time we can already include our Bootstrap installation for our project. Now we just want to run the command composer require Laravel and then /UI, and then we're just gonna wait for a few seconds to allow the installation to complete, and we should be able to incorporate the necessary libraries for our Laravel UI. So as you can see, this will also install the Bootstrap in our Laravel project, so we can already use that if we have a successful installation for our Laravel UI. And now that the installation for our Laravel UI has been completed, so we need to run also, or to include also, the dependencies for our auth. So this will include the login and register view, so PHP artisan, and then UI views dash dash auth, and this will install the login register. And after that, we need to run the command npm install to compile the CSS and other dependencies of our project. So we should be able to see the login, the register, and other views included for our UI, and view OAuth or auth dependencies. So I'll try to show you that after this installation. So we're just going to wait for a few seconds for it to complete, and then we should be able to see the changes in our browser. By the way, if you can see here at the top, there's a prompt here that the layout app blade.php view already exists, so do you want to replace it? So in my case, I have set it to n or no, but you can try to accept it or to replace the existing layout of our app.blade.php. So you can try to answer yes for that, and then the layout of our project will be changed according to this update. And this layout will also include the auth, the login, and then the register, as I've mentioned before. And as you can see here, I have here the layout view already exists, and do you want to replace it? And I just answered Y or yes for that. So I just want to replace the existing app.blade.php that we have been working on in the previous tutorial. And after that, you need to run also the command npm run dev to compile all the necessary assets that we have. So here we have the app.css and app.js. And after running this command, we should be able to see the changes of our project. So I'm going to show you the project now and what it looks like. So this is our project should look right now, and as you can see, we have here the CSS folder, that contains the app.css or generated app.css that contains all Twitter Bootstrap styles necessary to apply to our project. And we also have the JS file or JS directory with the app.js file, as you can see, with all the scripts needed for our project. So this is the compiled versions of all the JavaScripts or scripts for our project. And as you can see here, the resources, we have here the app.js and the bootstrap.js. And as I've mentioned before, we also included the oath files. So it should be the login blade.php, register blade.php, and verify.blade.php. And of course, we also have this files for our passwords. So confirm, email, and reset. And now let's try to preview our code in our browser. So this is the homepage of our project right now. And if you try to go to about section, so we can still see the about us, and then this is the about page text. And of course, we can also see the services with all the services included, the web design, programming, and SEO. So these are the pages that we have added, the login and then register. If you try to click on that, so as you can see, we have here the ready-made login form, and the same thing with our register. And in this video, we're going to discuss how to work with models and migrations. But before going into models and database migrations, let's try to add first the about and services links here in our navigation bar. So let's go ahead and try to do that in our code editor. And in here, we can try to open up our app.blade.php. So let's go ahead under views, and then layouts, app.blade.php. And as you can see here, we have here the links of the login and register. So all we have to do now is just copy this and paste it here. So we'll just add the links. So for example, for our home, let's just put slash there for our home, and then copy that for our services. So the link for our services is slash services, and the same thing with our about. Paste that there and change this link into slash about, and then let's just go ahead, save this, and let's refresh our page. And there you go, we can see that we have the home, services, and about section. But I think we need to modify the layout because we want this home, services, and about to align with login and register. So in order for us to do that, let's go back to our code editor. And in here, instead of having one nav item, so let's make it 3 for our home, and then the same thing for our services. Close the list item tag and paste another one. So save this, and here refresh. So as you can see, now we have the home, services, about, login, and register links aligned together. And if you try to click any of these links, it should work for all of them. So the about, services, home, and also the login and register links. One last thing that we will modify here is that we need to add some class to our content to properly position our text, services, and also the about us section. Let's go back to our code editor and try to modify this. And in here, let's go to the main element, and it has a class of py-4 for now. So let's add a container class for this, and then save, go back to our browser and refresh. There you go. we can see that the about or these elements are slightly indented from the left, so about us and also with the services. Now that we have that covered, let's try to go to the topic models and database migrations. So the first thing that we're gonna need is the PHP admin. If you are using WAMP or SAMP or any versions of the WAMP server, so the PHP admin is embedded into that and included on the installation process. And I hope that you included that during the installation process of the WAMP server or LAMP or any version of or any variation of the WAMP server. Now we need PHP admin because we're going to add a database here. So all we have to do is click the new, and then we're just gonna name our database as PK project. There you go, and then create. Now, we don't want to create tables here because we want our Laravel project to automatically create table for us. So let's go back to our code editor and make some changes and add controllers, add models for our project. And in here, let's try to open our terminal. So Alt Shift T. So this will open up our integrated terminal for our Atom code editor. And from here, we can uh, issue commands or run commands, artisan commands, PHP commands, or any other commands that we need. So the first thing that we're gonna need is to create a controller for our post. So the keyword for that is PHP artisan make and then colon and then controller, and of course the name of our controller, which is post controller, and then enter. And we're just going to wait for a few seconds to allow the installations or to allow the generation of files. So there you go, controller created successfully. And the next thing is we need to add a controller, or I mean a model. But for now, let's try to check first if the controller has been generated for us here in our project. So as you can see, we have here the post controller that extends controllers and readily use the illuminate coming from the Laravel and added the namespace controllers. So the next thing that we're going to generate is a model. So in order for us to do that, just like the controller, is to issue command PHP artisan and then make. And then instead of controller, we're going to use a model and try to generate a post model. So as you can see, we need to, or I think the best way here is to use a singular form of post. So here we are using post and then enter. And before that, we need to add /m because we're going to use the migrations. So this will enable us to generate the table from our Laravel project. So -m and then enter. And there you go, model created successfully and created migration post table. So as you can see, if you try to go to our database, view database, and then migrations, we have here the create post table, create post table migrations. So as you can see, it extends migration class, and then it has the two function up and down, and then we need to modify this method function up, because currently this particular function create a post table with this attribute ID, which is auto incremented, and also it include the timestamps for created at and updated at, which will be automatically filled in when we try to run the migration command. And since we're dealing with post, we probably need two more attributes, which are title and body. So in order for us to do that is we need to add it here in our app function. So table and then string, and then of course we need to name our attributes such as title. There you go. and another one for our body. So table, and then we want to make sure that we use the medium text here because usually the body of a post tends to be longer than the title, right? So medium text, and then this will be the body of our post. So save this, and as you can see here, if you try to go to migrations, we also have the migration or create users table migration for our users. So with including all the attributes ID, name, email, password, and all other attributes included here. Now we will make few changes here before we run the migration and create our table. So let's try to go to our env file to input our database details. So we have here the database, the username, and the password. So I think the username and password are already set, but we have to update the database name, which is in our case we have used the PK project. There you go, and then save this. So before we run the migration command and generate the tables, I'm going to show you a quick change that I made in providers app service provider.php. So under provider folder or providers directory, and then app service provider.php, make sure to import the illuminate support passage and then schema. And inside this function boot, make sure to add this schema default string length, which is 191. And if you have added that already, we're good to go, and we're now going to issue the PHP artisan migrate command. So PHP artisan and then migrate. And if you try to check our PHP my admin and refresh our project or PK project, so as you can see, we have here all the tables generated coming from our project or PK project. So we have here the post. Inside this post, we have the ID, which is the auto-generated ID, and the title, which is the length is 191. So we have set this in our code, and the body, and of course the timestamps, the created at and updated at. And in this video, we're going to discuss how to fetch data with Eloquent, and also we're going to populate our database by using the tinker command. And in order for us to do that, let's open our integrated terminal of our Atom editor. So in order for us to do that is we have to press Shift Alt and T, and there you go, we have opened our integrated terminal, and in here we can run the tinker commands from here, and also we can populate our database by using the tinker. So all we have to do now is type in PHP artisan and then tinker. And as you can see, we have here the brackets that let us know that we are inside the tinker program. And from here, we can directly work with our database and directly work with our models. So for now, let's bring in the post model. So app and backslash and then post. And then we can have a function in here. So for example, count. And it will return 0, which means we don't have yet a post in our post table or post model. So now let's create a new instance of our post. So in order for us to do that is define a variable $post and then equal sign and then our model, and then new app backslash and then post, then semicolon, and make sure you have the backslash instead of forward slash. So this will be the backslash and enter. So now we have an instance of our post model. So it is being saved in our memory, and by that we can use that in order for us to move forward and add a post to our post table. So now we can use the post instance and then set the title for our first post. So let's just make it the title into post 1 and then semicolon. There you go. And then of course for our post body, let's just do the same for our post body. So this is the post body, semicolon, and then there you go, this is the post body. And then after that one, we can save this, save the information for our title and our body. So post and then save and then enter, and it returns true, which means that we have saved a certain post to our post table. Now if we try to check our database inside our PHP admin, we can see here that we have a post, and of course we have the first post, which has the ID of 1. The title, we have set this into post 1, and of course we have set the body content. This is the post body, and it also have the created at and updated at fields, which has automatically populated for us. So let's try to add another one. And first, let us create a new instance of our post model. So new and then app backslash and then post. This will create another instance. And then we're going to set the title for this. This is post 2, and the post body also we need to set a value for this. This is the second post body. There you go. And we will save, finally we will save this values to our database. So it returns true again, which means that we have now have two posts in our post table in our database. So refresh here, and then you can see we have two posts or two records of our post table. So post 2, and then this is the second post body with the created at and updated at fields. Now if you try to go back into our project, and if you want to add a functionality here for our create, read, update, and delete, we're going to need to have different functions and different routes in our Laravel project. So let's go back to our code editor and try to edit our post controller. Let us open our post controller, and as you can see here, it is pretty much empty for now. So in order for us to add the functionality for our create, read, update, and delete, I think we're gonna need functions or several functions from here. So we need, the first one is index. So it is just a way of listing all our posts from our database. Another one is create, and I'm just going to type it in here. You don't need to follow this time. So store, to actually save our data into our database, and then we have a function to edit, and also we have a function that should be updating our data, and of course we have also show, and of course the last one to delete our record from our database. So we could actually create these functions manually, but we'll try to create this by using some commands. So I think I haven't shown you this yet, so I think I just have to delete this post controller for now and generate another one. So I have deleted the post controller for now, and I'm going to generate it again by using some commands. So in order for us to do that, let's run the command php artisan and then make and then controller, and of course the name of our controller is post controller with s, post controller, and then we're just gonna add the resource keyword here, and then we're just going to wait for a few seconds to allow the generation of our controller. So there you go, controller generated or created successfully. And if you try to open up the new post controller, we can see that all the functions that we have listed earlier has been generated successfully. So we have here the function index, so display a listing of the resource, and some of the functions here don't need or doesn't need the parameters, but there are also functions that need the parameters. So say for example this one, we have the create, so show the form for creating a new resource, and then the store has this parameter request, and we're going to define some of the logic later on inside this function. And also we have the show, so it has the ID that will identify the record that we want to show here. And also we have the edit, the same thing, it has the ID parameter. And also we have the update that requires two parameters, the request and of course the ID of the resource. And of course the destroy function that will enable us to delete based on the ID of the resource. So now that we have laid out all these functions in our controller, we need to have a route for each functions, right? So we're going to add, or we're going to go to the web.php of our routes. And as you can see, we have here the route that we have currently. And if you try to go to our command or our terminal, let's try to list our routes for now. So PHP artisan and then route and then list. So these are the currently generated routes for our project. So as you can see, we have here the login, the home, the password, the register, and all other function or all other routes that we have set. And now let's try to add a route for all our functions, because it is a kind of pain in the ass if you try to generate individual routes for our functions, right? So let's try to generate route for all our resource in our post controller. So route and then resource, and of course the name will be post, and of course the name of our controller, which is post controller. And then we're going to save this for now. Save, and then let's go back to our terminal and try to run another one, PHP artisan and then route and then list. So let's try to find our resource or generated routes for our post controller. So as you can see, we have here all the routes related to our post controller. So we have here the post, store, post index, post create, post show, and of course post update, and all other functions or all other routes that we need in our post controller. In the previous video, we have worked with the controller or post controllers. We have added the routes. So if you try to open the web.php in our routes folder, so as you can see, we have defined here route and then the resource, and then the name is post, and our controller, which is post controller. And then we also added or generated the post controller class. So as you can see here, we have here all the functions that we need in order for us to work with our CRUD or create, read, update, and delete functionality of our project. And in this video, we're going to continue working with our post controller and try to fetch data coming from our database and display it on our browser. By the way, guys, if you try to open our post model, so as you can see, we haven't done much here. And if you want to change the table name, you can change it here. And also you can change the primary key. So for example, you want to change the table name here. So for table name, and then protected, and of course the variable table equals the new name or the name of your table that you want in your database. And of course you can also change the primary key because by default we are using the ID, auto increment ID. So you can also change that in here. So protected, say for example protected, and then the primary key, um, primary key equals ID. There you go. Or you can change it into public. So public primary key, and then say for example if you want to name it as item underscore so for example you want to name it as item underscore ID as the primary key, so you can do that also. But by default we're using the ID, right? And also if you want to change, or if you don't want to include the timestamps that we have or that has been added automatically for us, so timestamps, remember that created at and updated at fields, so we can set it to false to not include that in our database. So you can do that here, but I'm going to show you now how to display the data coming from our database into our page or post page, because let's open our project in our browser. So this is the home page, right? And if you try to go to the post section, and the page is currently now blank, but we can change it because currently it is loading the index function coming from our post controller, which is now returning, or it doesn't return anything for now. So we will change this and we will return the view for our index. So we're just gonna edit this. So instead of returning empty, it should return a view. So it should be a file under post directory, and then the name should be index.blade.php. So there you go. So we need to create that in our view. So resources, and then views, and then we need to create a new folder here. So it should be post, and there should be a file here that says index.blade.php. So there you go. And in here, let's just extend the layout coming from our layouts folder. So layouts and app. And of course, we need to add the section content for our content to be here, especially the post. So, and section, we need to add end of the section here. And of course, we are going to place an H1 to have our post there. And now let's try to preview our post page. So as you can see, we have the navigation bar and the H1 post. And now let's try to get all the posts coming from our database. So in our post controller, instead of returning just the post index, so we can return the actual post. So we can use the post model because we're using the Eloquent. So it is basically just a object relational mapper. And in here we can just say post double colon and then all. So it will return all the records or all the posts coming from our database. So I'll just comment this one out, and also this, and also this one. So save, and then preview our code. So refresh this page, and we have some sort of error here. So class HTTP controllers post not found. So that's because we didn't include or use the app post here. So we're just going to add that. So use app backslash and then post, and then semicolon, and then save that. And let's go back to our browser and refresh. So there you go. You can see that all the posts coming from our post table in our database has been loaded, and it is an array. So let's go back to our post page and try to iterate this array to actually display the title. So instead of returning just the post, so we're just going to return the actual variable post. So this will be return view with, and of course the name is post, and our actual variable is post. So it should be s or with s because this variable should contain all the posts coming from our database. So save this, and in our index.play.php, we're going to iterate all the posts coming from our database. So let's just do that. And in here, we'll be adding a condition. So at if and then count. So first we're going to check if the post array has an element. So post is greater than 1. And then we're just going to have an else here, and of course the end of our if statement. If there's an element inside the post array, so we're going to iterate that by using the for each and then post and the individual post there. And we're just going to use the bootstrap element for a division. So and if for now, or end of our for each, and of course this one is coming from our bootstrap implementation. So class well, and it should contain the h3. It will hold the title of our post, so post, and then the title, of course. And let's try to preview this in our browser. So save this one and refresh. So there you go. We have the post 1 and post 2. So we can add also the created at variable or created at attribute in this. So we can see that when it is created, and also we can make this title as link. So we can actually click on this and then redirect it to another page specifying the ID, and then we can see all the details of that particular post. So let's go back to our code, and in here let's add an element. So small, so this will hold the date that the post has been created. So small, and then it should be written on, and then double braces, the post variable, and of course the created at attribute. So save this and preview our page in a browser and refresh. So as you can see, we have the post 1, post 2, and of course the date that when it is created. And let's make this post 1 or post 2 as a link. So let's go back to our code editor, and instead of just returning the h3 here, we're going to add a link element. So h or h3, and inside that is the link element. So href and then double quote. So we should close this one here. So A for our link, and then of course it should be redirecting into the post page, specifying the post ID. So, and then ID. Let's try that. Save this, and let's go back to our browser and refresh. So as you can see, the post 1 and post 2 title has been converted into link, and then we can actually click on this, and we can see that is blank for now because we haven't configured yet this particular page. And in this video, we're going to cover how to display the information coming from our database and using the Eloquent ORM. So we're going to display our post. So basically, from the previous tutorial, we have worked with our controller, post controller, and our post model. And of course, we have laid out the basic layout of our index.blade.php, wherein which we already iterated the post coming from our database, and also making our title as link so that we could click on that link and then be redirected to another page where in which we can see the full details of that particular post. And also we have added the created at or written on date. And then I have realized that we use the class well, which is not included in Bootstrap anymore. So we're going to use card for this class. And in our app.blade.php file, we're going to add the post page. So we have here all the items or all the links from our navigation. So home, services, and about. So we're going to add another link or another item in our navigation bar. So this should be all about the blog, which contain all the posts. And of course, this should be all about post. So let's go back to our browser and try to preview. And let's try to refresh the page. So as you can see, we now have the home, services, and of course the blog, which is added recently. So click on that, and you can see we have here the post. And I think we can take this further. So instead, as you can see, this is somewhat ugly for now. So let's try to modify this in our code editor. So let's go back here in our index.blade.php, and as you can see, we have here the card, right? But instead of using h3, I think we're gonna use the ul for now. So this is coming from our Bootstrap integration also. So ul. So inside this, and it should have a class list group, and then list group flush. There you go. And then of course inside here is the list item, which is the title of our post. So it should have a class list group item, and in here we're going to place, instead of using the h3, so we're going to, or I think we could keep this h3 in this area. So h3, so there you go. Instead of using h3 only, so we're pasting the title and the created at date inside a list item. We should reiterate the list item. So let's go back and try to add or remove this and add it here. And so with the closing div and closing L unordered list tag. So there you go, and then save that and refresh. So as you can see, we have now a slightly different version of our post. So if we try to click on this post, so we still have a blank page. So we'll try to work on that for now. And let's go back to our code editor. So let's go to our post controller. And as you can see, we have here a function that says show that takes in a parameter ID. So we can just edit this function and try to return a single post. So return and then post, and of course we can use a function here called find and then specifying the ID. And let's just save this and try to preview in our page. So refresh, and here you can see that this is the post one and this is the body of the post one. So let's try to check and click on the post 2. So there you go, the ID is 2 and the title is post 2. And now let's take this further and try to beautify this instead of just seeing the array of data. So let's go back to our code editor, and instead of returning basically just the post, so we're going to return a view just like what we have in our index function. So post, and then we're going to return a certain view. So this view will be a post, or under the folder post or directory post with the show.blade .php file name. And this should go with our post variable. So, and then the actual variable post. And of course, we can try to get this on our post.show file. So let's try to create that on our post directory. So let's try to create a new file here. So this should be show.blade.php. Okay, and then we're just going to copy the markup from this index.blade.php and paste it here. And then we're going to extend the layouts as well. And of course, we can get rid of this because we're not dealing with an array, so we can just have, or we can just use the post variable, and then we can get the title from there. And of course, we can also get the other attributes, so the post body and of course the created on attribute. So we're going to add it here by placing it inside a small tag. So this should be written on, and of course double curly braces, and then our post variable with the created on attribute. And I think we can add an HR here. So HR horizontal rule, and then of course we're going to add the body or the post body of the particular post. So post, and then the body of the post. So let's try to save this and preview on our page. So this is the current version. All we see is an array of values coming from a particular post. But if we try to refresh this, now we can see the post title and the post body, and of course the I think we misspelled, instead of using created on, I think it is created underscore AET or at, and then save that and refresh. So we have here all the information, the post title, post body, and of course the created at date. So post 1 and then post 2. And I think we could also add a button or back button here. So let's do that. So above the post title, we'll just try to add a back button here. So it should be a link that goes to the post. And of course, it should say go back, and it should have a class of a button. So btn and then btn default. So save and refresh. So we have here a link that tells us to go back to the post or to the page where all the posts are displayed. So there you go, post 2 and then post 1. And then let's go back. So what if you want to sort by maybe title or ID, ascending or descending? So let's try that on our index function of our post controller. So as you can see, we are doing the post and then post modal and then double colon and then all. So we can actually sort by title or ID, so whatever we want to sort by. So say for example, let's just comment this one out and try to copy that. So post, um, we can say here order by, and then the attribute that you want your records to be sorted by. So title, say for example in this case, title, and we can say descending or DESE, and of course we need to say get and refresh here. So as you can see now, the post 2 is the first one to appear here instead of the post 1. And if you try to go as sort by ascending, sort by title as ascending, there you go, refresh. So the post 1 is the first one to appear here in our post page. And actually you can also use the SQL commands or SQL statement in our controller to get all the posts coming from our database. So all you have to do is use the DB class. So actually I'm going to show you that real quick because it is very easy to get all the records coming from our database by using the DB class. So we're just going to use DB, and of course in here we're going to comment that one out for now and use this as our variable for a post. So post and then equals the DB, and of course the select function and our SQL command, which is select all from post. And then let's just save this and refresh. So we still have all the posts coming from our database, so post 1 and post 2. And in this video we're going to discuss forms and how to save data. And if you try to go to the create or pk project.loc create, and then you can see that we have a 404 not found because it is loading the create function of our post controller, and as you can see we don't have any logic from here yet. So all we have to do now is modify this function and to actually return a view. So this should return a view coming from our post directory and create template, and let's go ahead and create that inside our post directory. So new file, and of course the name of our template is createblade.php, and then we're just going to copy the markup from this index.blade.php and paste it here, and it should say create post instead of just saying post. And then we're going to get rid of all this markup here because we're going to use a form for us to save information coming from a form into our database. And for now, let us save this and try to preview in our browser. So refresh. So as you can see, we still have the pkproject.loc create, and we're getting a 404 not found. That's because I think we need to specify first the post here, before the create. So post and then create, and there you see the create post h1 that we have added in our create.blade.php file. So let's try to add a form into this page, and we're going to use Laravel Collective for that. So they have a some sort of a template for forms, and we just need to install and add some dependencies into our project. So we can see here HTML, so Laravel Collective, and we can also open up their website Laravel Collective, and here we can see the different versions. So for example 6.0. So installation for the Laravel Collective is here. So composer require Laravel Collective /HTML. So we're going to do that in our code editor Atom, and we're going to open up the integrated terminal from our code editor Atom, and then paste just the composer required Laravel Collective. So there you go, and then enter. We're just going to wait for a few seconds. And now the installation is complete. Let's go back to the website. And in here we have a guide on how to open up a form inside our template. So we have here opening a form, and then we can just copy and paste this one and paste it in our blade.php. So below here, let's just paste this code and try to change this because this is how the default on how to open up a form by specifying the URL on where to submit the data coming from this form, but we can actually change this. So in here we're going to specify the action instead of the URL. So the action for this one is post controller, and then at symbol, and of course the store function inside our post controller class. And we can also specify the method from here. So it should be method, and of course method with single quote and the equal and greater than sign. And here we specify the method, which is post. Also in here we can specify a division with a class form group. So this is actually coming from a bootstrap. So we can also add a form label here. So this will be form and then label, and specifying that this is a label for our title and the actual label of our title field. And of course we can also specify here the actual input. So form and then text. We can specify the name of our input, which is title, and then the value. So this is a create form, so we should not specify a default value. And of course we can also specify classes here or additional attributes. So for classes for this particular input, and this should have a class form control, and of course a placeholder for this particular input. So equal sign and then greater than, and the actual placeholder, which is title. So let's try to save this for now, and let's go back to our browser to preview and try to see. Here we have the actual label and input field, which has the placeholder title, but I think we don't have yet the correct classes for our input, so it looks ugly for now. So let's go back to our code editor and try to see So we have here, instead of class, we have specified classes. So save that and try to refresh. And there you go. We have a much better input for our title. And then we can also the same, or we can also do the same for our body. So we're just going to copy this, and instead of title, we're going to say body. And of course, this is for body also, and body too. And so with this placeholder, and of course, instead of text or using text, it should be text area. There you go. And save that and refresh our page. So we have a title and a body now. And the last part is to add a submit button for our form. So before the closing tag of our form, let's add the button submit, which is form and then submit. And of course, we need to specify some values here also. So submit, and then of course the class for our button, which is class, and then we can specify the btn class, btn primary, to signify that it is a button. So save and refresh. So now we have a complete form with all the fields and of course the submit button. And if you try to submit now, so it redirect to another page, and basically we're not doing anything for now because we should modify also the store function of our post controller. So let's go back first to our code editor and edit our post controller. So inside here, I'm just gonna close this real quick, and in here we need to add some logic to actually save our data coming from the form. We can also add the validation from this function also. So we can specify this, and then the function validate, and of course we need to have the request here, and also the array of the rules, which is for our title it should be required. Okay, so it should be required, and also the body tag or the body of our post should be also required. So, and then we're just going to return a number for now, so 143, something like that. Save this and go back to our browser, refresh, and then try to submit. So it is not allowing us to submit any data because it is empty for now. So, but we don't have a message that it is submitting an empty information. But if we try to have an information here and then submit, so as you can see, we now have the return information 143. So in this video, we're going to continue working on with this form, and let's try to add some template for our messages inside our create page. So let's go to our views, and let's create another directory here. So this should be in inc, and then this we will create a new file here called messages.blade.php, and then we're going to include this file into our app.blade.php. So we're just going to configure first this messages.blade.php for now, and first let's just check if the count for errors is greater than 0. So let's just close first the if statement, and we're going to define a for each here, and let's just close the for each below, and inside this for each is we're going to iterate the errors, and this is an object. So all, and then as error, and of course we're going to define a very basic alert to our user by using the bootstrap alert elements. So this should have a class alert, and of course because this is an error, so it should be danger, right? And of course the error itself to display. And also we're going to check for um, messages for session coming from our page. So session, and then if it has a success value, so we're just going to end the end if here. So just bear with me guys, because I'm just laying out the messages or the feedback to our user if they have something, or if there were errors during the process of submitting the information. So div, and then of course it should have the alert also, alert success, and the value of our session and success. And then we're just going to do the same for our error coming from the session. So this should be error also, and instead of success should be danger, and also here is the error. Okay, so we need to include this inside our layout app.blade.php. So I think somewhere before the main container, okay, or after the container element. So we're just going to include the messages here. So add, and then include, and of course the directory and the template messages. So save this one and let's try to preview it in our page. So refresh and then submit. So there you go, we can see the title field is required and also the body field is required, and try to populate the title, and then only the body field is required because we did not populate the body of our post. So now let's go back to our post controller and continue working with our store function. So you remember that we use Tinker before to populate our database. So we can actually use that also in here. So post, and then equal, and then new post. And we can use that instance for now. So post, and then set the title for our post, which is the request, or the value coming from a request. And technically it is the value coming from the form. So we should specify the input, which is the title, and then of course we can actually get the value of our body, the same thing as the title, so request, and then the input, and of course the body. And save this, so post, and then save. Then we can redirect to another page, or to the post page. So return and then redirect to the post page, and it should have additional information. So with, and then of course success. So remember, we have defined this in our messages .blade.php file, and this is how you set the value of the message. So post created, and then something like that, and try to save this, And let's go back to our browser and try to preview it. So refresh, and then let's try third post, because technically this is the third post. So post 3, and then this is the body of the post uh, number 3, and then submit. So it is now redirected to the post page, and it has a feedback of post created. So the alert message that we have created in our messages.blade.php. So now we have three uh, records in our database: post 1, post 2, and post 3. And then if you try to click any of this post, we can redirect to another page with all the information included or displayed in this post. And now I wanted to add a link to create a post, because for now we don't have any link here that says we can create a post. So let's go back to our app.blade.php file, and then we can see here all the links from our navigation, the home, services, blog, and about. And this is the right side of our navigation. So I think we can just copy this nav item here and then paste it on this left side of our navigation. So this is create post, or we can just say add post, and then it should redirect into post create. So let's try this. So save, and then let's go back to our browser and refresh. So as you can see, we now have the add post link here, and it should redirect us to the form once we click it. So we have a working link to add post now, and I think it's high time for me to add a syntax highlighter for now for the blade templating, because as you can see, uh, we have all the syntax here, all the scripts for our blade templates here, but we don't have a syntax highlighter for that. All we see is a white text, and then I think it's not readable for us. So let's go to file, and then settings, and then packages, and then let's try to install, or try to go here in install and search the package language and blade. So language blade, so it is a syntax highlighter for the blade templating engine used in Laravel. So we're just going to install this. So it should enable us to read the syntax of our blade, or syntax of the blade, much easily. So let's try this, and then let's just wait for a few seconds to uh, allow the installation to complete. And I think it is now complete. Let's go back to our file, and as you can see, we do have now the syntax highlighter, or syntax highlighting for blade templates, and it will be only activated on files that has blade.php file extensions. And in this video, we're going to discuss, or we're going to talk about how to enable editing and deleting of information, or deleting of our data coming from our database. So in the previous video, we have worked with our post or our blog, right? So we can now have, or we can now see all the posts coming from our database. And of course, we can also go into details by clicking the specific post in this particular page. So there you go, we have here the post 3, and of course we have post 2 with all the details. And now let's try to add the edit functionality and also the delete functionality of this particular post. So if there are several posts here on this particular page, so we have an option to edit or even delete that particular post. So in order for us to do that, we need to go to our code editor and try to modify our show page. So as you can see, we have the resources, the views, and of course the page. And we also have here the files for our post. So we have here the show.blade.php, and in here we need to add a link. So right after the written on information, so we need to add a link for our edit. So let's just try to add first an HR element to have a separation of these two elements. There are small and of course the link that we're going to add. So this link should redirect to post, and then the ID of our post, and of course the edit, and then it should say edit, and it should have a class btn and btn default. So if you try to save this and go back to our browser and refresh, so we now have the edit link here, and if you try to click on this one, we are being redirected to this page, pkproject.loc/post and then /1 and then edit. So now let's go back to our code editor and try to modify our post controller. So up, and then http controllers, and of course our post controller. So we have here the store function, and of course we have also the show. Before, or from the previous video, we have worked with show, and then we're just getting the post. So we're just going to do that also for our edit function. And also we can just copy this line and just modify, instead of saying show, it should have the edit keyword. And of course we're also passing the post variable to our edit page. So let's go back to our resources and then post. We need to create a new file here. It should say edit blade.php. Okay, and we're going to copy the markup from create blade.php because I think they're almost the same. So in this page we are creating a post, and of course in this page we're editing the particular post. So instead of saying create a post, it should be edit post. And of course in here is we need to say, instead of empty, we need to say post, and of course the title of our post. The same with the body of our post. So post and then body of the post. And since we're editing a particular post, we need to include or submit also the post ID. So instead of just passing the post controller at store, so we need to make it an array to pass also the ID of our post. So that's post ID. There you go. And as you can see, we have here the post method. But if you try to view our route list by opening our terminal, so let's try to view first our list. So that's PHP artisan and then route list. So we have here all the route for our project, and as you can see we have here the update, right? So post, and then of course the ID of our post, and as you can see the method for this particular route is put or patch, but we can't directly say here put. So we need to have some kind of mechanism to enable to say put. So in here, we need to pass in some hidden field. So form, and then hidden, and of course the underscore method keyword. So this is somewhat like a bypass because we cannot directly go here and say put. So instead it should be post here, and then here we can say the method should be put for our update route. So save this, and then I'm just going to close that terminal, and let's go back to our post controller and try to update our update function here. So in here, in our update function, we could just copy the logic coming from our store function. So we can copy all these lines and paste it here. There you go. And we just need to change the post because we're not doing, or we're not creating a new post, we're editing the post. So what we need here is to find the particular post, find, and then passing in the ID of the post. And of course, instead of saying post updated or post created, it should be post updated. So there you go. Save our post controller.php, and let's go back to our browser. And in here, refresh. So we have here the edit post page. So let's try to go back to our blog first, and then try to see post 2. And then this is the post 2, and then if you try to click on edit, we can see that the title is post 2, and we can just edit the body here. So this is the second post body, and this is updated by a certain user, just to make sure, just to show that we have updated this particular post. So submit. So we're getting this exception. So the put method is not supported for this route. So I think we need to change something here. So, oh, there you go. So instead of using store, it should be update here. So save that. And let's go back to our page. So blog, and then post 2, and then edit. This is the second post body, and this is updated, and then submit. So there you go, post updated. And then if you try to go see the post 2, we can now see that the post has been updated. So now let's add the delete function. Just like what we have in our edit function or edit form, we need to submit also the post ID for our delete function, and also specify the post method. So in that manner, we need to also make our delete function as a form. So we need to add a form here instead of just a pure link. So that's form, and then open, and the action of our form, that will be post controller, and then add destroy, because we're using this for particular function to delete our post. And then of course the ID of our post ID, specify the post ID. And then for this, we need to specify the method here. So method, and of course this should be post, and we need to add a class here for our form. So class pull right, because we want this to float right side of our edit link. So pull right, and then we're going to close this one, close our form, and in here we need to add two things: the method or the spoofing method that we have, the same like for our edit. So we need to add hidden field, so underscore method, and of course the keyword delete. And of course here we also need to add the submit. So form, and then submit, open and close, and then delete. This is our submit button. So delete, and we need to add a class here for our button. So that's btn, and then btn danger. So let's try this. Refresh. So we're getting syntax error, unexpected period. So let's go back to our editor and identify the, oh, there you go. So post, it should be the post ID. So save. Let's go back to our page. Post 3. So it says undefined class constant close. So I think we also missed that. Instead of close, so it should have the open and close parentheses. So let's go back to our page, post 3, and then delete. So now we are being redirected to the destroy function of our post controller. So let's go to that function. So destroy, and in here we just need to find the post, just like what we have in our update and show. So find the post, and then of course we need to delete the post by using that function, and then we need to redirect to our post page. So that's post, and of course we need to pass in a message. So that's success, and then the post remove. So save that, and then refresh, or maybe it's better to go to our post first. So blog, and then post 3, and then press the delete. So as you can see, we have removed the post number 3, and we have the message here, post remove. So we have successfully created our create, read, update, and delete.
But as a sort of review, in the previous tutorials, we have worked with our create, read, update, delete functionality for our project. So as I've said, in this video, we're going to discuss user authentication. So as you can see, we have here the login register functions. And if you try to go to our database, we can see we have already created or populated our users table with the attributes: ID, name, email, email verified, password, token, and the created at and updated fields or attributes. So let's go back to our code editor and try to add more features to our project and add the user authentication and perhaps the user access control to our project. So let's go back to our code editor and let's try to see the views. In the views, we have already this file, right? So as you can see, we have different options and different menus, the home, services, blog, the about, and of course we have added the login and register links so that we will be able to log in, and of course we will be able to register to our project. And for now, let's just copy this because we're going to override this file. So let's do that by creating a new file as a sort of backup, and let's try to open up our command line so that we'll be able to create the authentication or user authentication for our project. So in here, let's just type in PHP artisan and then make colon and then the keyword oath. And then let's just try to wait for a few seconds to enable the so as you can see, we have here a problem, command make oath is not defined. So I think we have, so instead of using the artisan make oath, so I think we need to run the command PHP artisan instead, and then UI and then oath. So this will enable the authentication or user authentication for our project. And we have here a prompt that says the oath login.blade.php view already exists. Do you want to replace it? So for now, let's just say yes, because we want them to be replaced with a new version of the login.php, the blade.php, email.php. And then I'm just gonna answer yes to this prompt, verify. So this will again override our old files. So authentication scaffolding generated successfully. So if we try to run our project right now, let's say refresh. Okay, so as you can see, we have already overridden our old files, and as you can see, we don't have any additional options here for our blog services and adding the post. So we need to add that in our app.blade.php file. So as you can see, we have the backup for our app.blade.php file, and we have here the new one. Okay, so all we have to do is we can just copy for example, the link from here. So starting from here to the first navigation item for our home, and then paste it here. There you go. And of course, we need to add also the navigation for adding a post. So UL, left side of our navigation. Okay. So we have here the option to add post. And of course, guys, we can make the navigation bar instead of light, we can say inverse. Just gonna remove this. So navigation bar inverse, and then save this one, and let's go back to our browser and then refresh. So as you can see, we have added all the options to add post. We also have the home, services, blog, about, and of course the login and register pages. And as you can see, we need to fix this display right here because I think it's not indented. So let's go back to our code editor and try to modify that. So index for our content. So we don't have here the div container, so we need to add that in our app.blade.php file.
Okay, so we have here the content, yielding of content, but we need to add the container class or container div with the class container. Okay, so this should solve the problem of the indentation or the margin left for our project. Refresh. So as you can see, now the content is indented, and if we try to go to register, we can already register here by using our name. So for example, Tom saw, and an email. Let's just say tom@gmail.com, and then password. Okay, and then register. And as you can see, we have redirected into our home and prompted that we are now logged in. So as you can see, we have enabled the user authentication, and the Laravel takes care of all the intricacies of using the user authentication within our project. Okay, now so we can close this, and let's try to edit our home.play.php. So instead of just showing you are now logged in, let's just say we can add a post here. So that will be post, and then create, and create post. And then we're just going to add a class for our button or link, btn primary. And let's just say here your blog post. Then save this, try to preview, and then refresh. So we have here the updated dashboard or home page. Then we can just create a post. But if you try to look up in our database post, because we want to add the ID of the user that has posted the certain post, so we need to make a migration for that to add the attribute ID of our user. So now let's add the migration for adding our user ID into our database table. So in here, we need to run the command php make php artisan, and then make, and then migration, and then the name of our migration is add user ID to post. Okay, so php artisan make colon, and then migration add user ID to post, and it says it created the migration. So if we try to go back to our file, and then under database, and then migrations, we now have the migration add user ID to post. Okay, so if you try to run our migration right now, nothing will happen because we don't have any logic inside the up and the down function. So in order for us to add the ID to the user table in our database, we need to have some logic here and also run the migration. So inside here, we need to say table and then integer, because the value of the user ID is of integer type. So user, and then underscore ID, and then semicolon. And of course, whenever we want to roll back the changes that we made in our migrations, we can just say table, and then drop column, and then specifying the column user ID. So okay, so after that one, save this, and then let's just say php artisan migrate, So migrating user ID post, and it says migrated. So let's check our PHP So inside here in our database, we can see we have already the user underscore ID. And for now, let's just say it belongs to user 1, this particular post. And also this one, it belongs to the user 1. So it just, it belongs to someone. Okay. So now let's try to edit the controller for our post, because whenever we add a certain post, we want the user ID, or grab the user ID and add that along with the other information of the post. So let's just go to HTTP and then controllers and then post controllers. Okay. So post. So inside our store function, we just need to have the user ID, or pass in the user ID. So here, post, and then user ID equals, and this time we're not gonna use the request, because the user ID doesn't come from the user, doesn't come from request. It comes from the user auth. So it should say auth and then user, and then we're just going to have or grab the ID. Okay. And then save. So here, refresh, add post, and then certain title of a post, new body of a post, and then submit. So we have now the certain title of a post, and if we try to check the third post, we can see that the user ID has been populated by value of 1, which means that this particular post belongs to the user with the ID 1. And in this video, we're going to add, or we're going to discuss the modal relationships. So in the previous video, we've worked with the user ID. So we added the user ID to our database, and the I think it's from the post. So we've added our user underscore ID by using the migration. And in this video, we're going to add the relationship to this user ID to the actual user's ID here in this table. So that will enable us to only limit the blogs or the posts that are belonging to a certain user. So for example, when we try to view the post, so we all want, or what we want is to only display the posts that are created by the login user. In order for us to do that, let's go back to our code editor and try to add the model in our models. Okay. So let's open up our post model. So all we have to do here is to add a certain function. So it is very simple to add relationships in Laravel. So as I've said, all we have to do is add a function here. So for example, public function, and then user, and then return this, and then belongs to the app, and then backslash user. And the same thing with our user model. Let's add a function here. So public function, and then post, and then this should return has many relationship, because a user can have many posts, right? So the user can post like thousands or hundreds of posts. And let's go ahead, open up our dashboard controller or home controller, because that's where we're trying to display the post. So in here, we just need to get the user ID by using the auth and then user function, and then supply the ID, or I think it's like that one, instead of using it as parameter. So user ID equals auth and then user and then the ID attribute, and then let's find the user, find and then user ID, and then we need to pass in this user post into the home. So that's with and then post. So it means that this post or this post are belonging to this particular user. So post and then comma, then user post. Okay, so if we go to the home home view, so resources and then views and then home. So after logging in, or after the user log in, so we need to display a table here that display, or that will display all the posts belonging to the login user. So that's table, and then class is table stripe, and then we're just going to define the headers or header for our table. So that's th and then title th, and we're just going to add two other th here for our edit and delete button. So th, this is going to be just empty because this is going to be populated with id, or I mean the edit and button, edit and delete button. So that's th. So in here, so I think we just need to check if the actual post at if, and then count the post. So if it is greater than 0, then we need to display the table, right? Table, and here we need to add the else, and of course we need to say if the count of post is not greater than 0, then we have to say you have no post. You have no post. And then end our if statement, and if, and of course in here we also need to populate the table rows. So the title should be getting the title from the post, so it's post and then the title of our post. So there you go. And then in here we just need to add the edit button first. So href, and then the href is post, and then slash the post ID. So that's basically post, and then the ID, and then we're just going to say slash edit, and so let's just add a class for this. So class btn default, and then this should say edit. So let's try that. Refresh our page. So let's go back to the home page, refresh, and then we need to log in. So I think we forgot the user password. Let's try logging in. So tom@gmail.com and then the password. So log in. We're just going to wait for a few seconds just to allow the login. So we have an error, user not found in our home controller, because I think we need to add that which one? So home controller 27, home controller, there you go. So we need to add here the class. So that's app and then \user. Okay, let's try that. Save and refresh. App user constant. Okay, so I think we need to remove the single quote for that to work, and then refresh. Undefined variable post in home.blade.php. So let's try to solve that. Home.blade.php. So it says here that we don't have access to the post or the actual post. Okay. So I think we need to iterate first in here to actually have the individual post. So that's for each, and then the post variable as single post, and then let's just add the end of our for each here. For each, here you go. So save and then refresh. So we have here the new and updated view of our post. So we can see the title, which is post 1, post 2, and certain title of a post. So let's try to add a new user. So log in and then user 2, or make sure, let's just say Tim saw, and then team@gmail.com, and then the password, let's just supply a certain password. Okay, and then register. So as you can see, the home or the location home, it says you have no post, because we just want the post to show if the certain user log in and then he has post, so it should be displayed here. But in case of our new user team, so he has no post, so let's try to add a new post. First post of team saw, the body of the post of team saw, and then submit. So this page displays all the posts, but if you try to go to the project location and then home, it only displays the first post or the single post of our new user team saw. And in the previous video, we have worked with user authentication, and we have laid the modal relationships. And in this video, we're going to discuss about how to actually implement the user access control. So basically, we're just going to add a feature that will just enable us to control which pages will our user be able to access. So in here, let's try to see, we have here in our project or homepage of our project, and as you can see, we can always access the post create. So if we go to post and then create, so we can already create a post even if we have or we are not logged in, right? So currently we're not logged in with our account, and we can create a certain post, but we don't want that. The user should log in first before they can create a post. So also we can see that if we go to blog and then click the post, we can see the buttons and edit and delete even if you are not logged in as a user. So again, we don't want that. We want the user to log in first before they can modify, they can delete and create a post. So in order for us to do that, let's go back to our code editor and try to modify our project. If we go to the controller of our home page, so app and then HTTP controllers and then home controller, we can see here we're adding the middleware auth in this construct method. So we're just going to copy this for our other controllers. So copy, and then we're going to do the same thing for our post controller. So that's post, and then we're just going to paste the construct method or function coming from the home controller class. Again, we're doing this just to control the access of the non-logged-in users. So if you try to go back to our browser, so if you try to go to /post and then create, so we won't be able to create a post right now, and it booted us out from the create form or create post form. So it says that we need to log in. But there's a problem with this, because if we try to go to our blog, so it says that we need to log in just to view the blogs, right? So we don't want that, and we just want to limit the access when we try to create a post. So let's try to exempt the other pages for that. So in here we need to pass in an array. So this will be an array of pages that will be exempted. So accept, and then the array or the actual array of pages. So it's gonna be the index and of course the show page. So save that and go to our browser. So we should be able to view the blog. So these are the posts, and we can't access the create for now, right? Because we're not logged in. Posts should be, post and then create. So if we try to log in by using our account, so log in, there you go, we can access the create post. And now let's just solve the problem with the individual post. If we try to go to a single post, we can see, even if we log out from this page, log and then post, we can see the edit and delete buttons, and we don't want that. We just want to see the post without these buttons, edit and delete. So in order for us to do that, let's go to the post. So that's, where is it, resources, and then views, and post, and then show. So let's go to this part right here when displaying the edit and delete button. So I think we're just going to add a certain if statement here. So auth and then not guessed, and then let's just say and if here. So basically we're just limiting the access to these buttons, and it should be gone there for now. So if you are not logged in, and you go to a single post, you can not edit and delete the post. But if you try to log in by using our account, so basically we should be able to have the edit and delete button. So log out and go back to that particular post, no edit and delete button. But also we need to change something here, because we need to only show those edit and delete buttons if you are the owner of that particular post. So let's go back to the show.play.php, and in here we need to add another if. So that will be if and then auth user. So basically we're just going to check if the currently logged in user is the owner of this particular post. So that will be post and then the user ID. So remember we added that particular attribute user ID by using the migration. So and we're going to end the if statement here. So there you go. So you won't be able to access the edit and delete button even if you are logged in, if you're not the owner of that particular post. So for example, this one. So we're not the owner, or the currently logged in user is not the owner of this particular post. So, but this one, he's the one posted this particular post. So he should be able to edit and delete this post. But we need to solve another problem here. So as you can see, we can edit this particular post. But if we try to have like 5 here, this is a post from another user. So, right? So we don't need, or we don't want this actual user or this particular user to be editing other posts or other users' post. So what we need is to go to our post controller, and in our edit function, we need to have some sort of check in here. So below this one, we need to check if the user or authenticated user, meaning the login user ID, is not equal to the post user ID. So again, we're just checking if this particular login user is the owner or not the owner of the post. So if he's not the owner of the post, so it should return redirect, and then we need to pass in the post. It should redirect to the post page, and then with an error message. So error, and then it should say unauthorized page. Okay, so save that, and let's go back to our browser and try to go to blog, and then first post. So the ID is 6, and then edit. So if you try to have or put 5 in here, so it should say, or it should redirect into the post page. But I think we don't have the error message here. So let's try to add that in our layout. So that will be from the layout, and then app.play.php. We have to include the error messages or messages here in our page. So it should be here. So in here, let's just add the messages layout. So include, and then inc folder, and then messages. So it will refer to the inc and then messages.play.php. So save this and let's go back to the browser and post, edit, and 5. So it should say unauthorized page because we're not authorized to access this post or this particular post, and we cannot edit this because this is not the post, or this is not a post of this TeamSaw user. So I think we need to do the same with the delete button also. So let's go to the post controller, and then we also have the destroy here. So I think we're just going to copy the logic that we have used in our edit function and paste it here in our destroy function. So after that, so post, so if auth user ID is not equal to the post user ID, so it should redirect to the post page and with an error message of delete.
And as a sort of review, in the last videos, we have added the access control for the post or blog post available in our project, and we also limit the edit and delete buttons for those owners of the actual post. So in this video, we're going to add a file upload. So in here, so for example, if we add post, so in here, what we want is to add a file upload where we can actually upload an image. So we will be able to do that, and let's try to go back to our code editor and open up or create that blade.php, and we'll try to add the file upload capability in our project. So under resources and then views, post, and then create that blade.php. So we have here the form that enables us to add a post. So we're just going to add here the element for our file upload. So in here we need to add the div with class form group, and of course we need to add the actual form element, which is we're going to use the Laravel collectives for that. So form and then file, and then we're just going to name it as a cover image. Okay, so in order for us to submit or upload the file in this particular form, we need to change also the ink type for this form. In this particular part, we need to add another element, which is the ink type for our form, and then it should say multi-part / data, and then save. Let's try to preview that, refresh, and then you can see here the file upload element where we can browse the actual file in our file system. But if you try to select an image here and then submit, it's not going anywhere for now. It's not saving to our database, and it's not saving into our project because this is only the user interface, and there's nothing logic, or there's no logic behind this file element. So in order for us to have the actual logic, we need to go back to our code editor and open up the controller. So HTTP controllers, and then inside our post controller. But before we forgot, I think we need to add first the attribute or the field into our database. So let's open up our database and try to add the field first by using our migration. So I'm just going to show you here
So in our post structure, and we don't have yet the field for our image or cover image. So we need to add that by using our migration. So open up the terminal first, and here we need to run the command PHP artisan, and then make migration, and then the name of this migration is add cover image to the post. Okay. Okay, so the migration has been created. So let's open up it here in our database and then migrations. So add cover image to post, and we need to add the logic here to actually add the cover image attribute. So table and then string. This will just add the cover image into our post table. And of course in here we also have the down functions. Okay, so we're just going to drop column in here. So drop column, and then we're just going to say cover image. And after that we need to run the migration. So PHP artisan and then migrate. So migrated. If you try to go back to our PHP my admin and then refresh our structure, so we can see here the cover image field or attribute. So now let's go add the logic to actually upload the file into our file system and also save the file name into our database. So in our file upload, as I've said, there are two things that would happen. So we need to add the string path or the name of the file in here in our cover image attribute or field, and then we also need to upload the actual file into our project. So now let's go back to our post controller. Open up our post controller, and in here we need to modify. Let's just go close the terminal for now. Let's just close this, and then we need to modify the store function. So we need to add the validation for our cover image first. So the cover image should be image, and then it is nullable, meaning the user can have the option to upload or not upload the file for their cover image. And also we're going to set the maximum size of the file into 1999, because most common PHP settings they're allowing only 2 MB of file upload. So we're going to set the maximum size of our image into 1999, which is almost 2 MB or 2 megabytes. And then in here we need to set up a few things. So we're going to handle the file upload, and in here we have to say request and then has file. We're just going to check if the user has opted to upload the file. So else we need to set the file name to store is no image.jpg. So this is gonna be the default image for our user if he has opted to not upload cover image for himself. So this will be the default. So if the user has opted to submit or upload the file, so it should say here we need to get we need to get the file name with the extension in here. So get file name with extension, get file name with extensions. Okay, and then it should say file name with ext is equals to the request, and then the file which has the name of cover image, and we're just going to get client original image. Okay, and then we're just going to get just the file name of the file in order for us to do that. So file name and then path info, and then we're going to pass in parameters in here, file name with extension, and we're just going to get the path info underscore file name. So in this video, guys, we're going to continue working with our file image upload. So in the previous video, we have laid out this logic here, which is we're checking if the user has submitted a cover image or uploaded an image, and then we're getting the file name with extension here, and also we're getting the file name from the actual image that has been uploaded. And now let's continue adding to this logic. So we have here the file name, and then the next step is to get the extension. Okay, so in order for us to do that, we need to add a new variable extension, and then by using the request object, we're going to use the file method, and then cover image, and we're going to get the original client extension. Okay, and next is we need to define a file name that we're going to store into our database. So file name to store, that will be path, and then alright, first we need file name to store equals the file name that we got from the actual file, and then we're going to concatenate with an underscore, and then time, and then another concatenation with the extension. So this will be extension. We're doing this because we're just trying to avoid if, say for example, the user uploads a file or an image with the same file name. So in order for us to solve that is we get the file name, and then we're adding underscore, and then we're adding the time. So it won't be a problem for us if the user will upload files or image that has the same name. And the last part of that is we need to actually upload the image. So that will be upload image. We need to get the path, and then request, and then file again, cover image, and we need to store this. Store as we're going to store this on our public folder. So public, and then cover images. We need to create this directory, and then the new file name will be file name to store. And now whenever the user upload a file, so let's try to see database resources, and then we have here the storage, and then app, and then we have this public folder. So it will create the cover underscore images directory here, but the problem is this public directory is not accessible when you try to open up this directory in our browser. So we need to make sure that all the changes that we are making here is reflected to the public folder here, because this is accessible to the web browser. So in order for us to do that, let's open up our terminal, and we need to run a command to link this storage app public folder into our actual public folder. So the command for that is php artisan and storage, and then link. So there you go, the public storage directory has been linked. So whatever changes that we're making here in our storage file or storage directory will be reflected here in a public directory. Now the last thing that we want to do here is to actually save the file name to store. So that will be post, and then the cover image equals the file name to store. Okay, save this and let's try it in our browser. So refresh and then add post. So new post with an image. This will be the body of the post with an image. Then we're just going to select a certain image and open, and then submit. So we're getting an error here. The cover image must be an image. So I think the problem with this is here in our create blade.php. So multi-part slash, it should be form data. So there you go, save and refresh. So new post with image, test body, and then browse for the actual image, and then submit. So we're getting get client original image does not exist. So we have a typo here. So I think we're going to use, instead of get client original image, so we're going to use get client original name. So that will be post controller and get client original name. So right, and then post with image, test, browse the image and submit. So we're getting path info underscore file name, so undefined constant. So we need to change that. Instead of just file, it should say file name. Let's go back and refresh just to make sure, and then new post, test, and browse the image and then submit. So again, we're getting the get original client extension does not exist. So I think we also have a typo, so we're just going to copy this, get client original extension. So let's go back to our code editor and replace this with get client original extension. So save that. Let's go back, refresh, and save another one. So I hope it will be successful this time. So browse and then submit. So there you go, post created. So the new post with image has been created, and the next step that we're going to take is to display the image in our show post and also in our new post with image, where we can actually see the individual post. Since we have successfully uploaded an image, we can see here in our storage, and then the cover image directory has been created, and we can see here the link of our storage directory with also the cover underscore images with the actual file or image that we have uploaded. So let's try to view that in our PHP MyAdmin. So in here, so post, and we have new post, and then the body, and of course the link or the file name of the uploaded file. And actually we're just going to get rid of this records with no cover image, so we're just going to delete that, and let us now try to display the images coming from the database into our show and index blade.php. So that will be resources, and then views, and then index.php. So we have here displayed the post. So before that, let's just going to add a new div road. So this is just a bootstrap tag, and we're going to add another div. This will be column md4, and also another one for another column, so it should be 8, and we can just copy and paste this here, and also we can remove this. I think we can just remove that, and here we need to display the image, so that will be image, and then the source is coming from the storage directory, and then cover images, and the file name. So this will be coming from our post, and cover image, and I'm just going to add a style here for our image, which is the width should be 100%. So save this, so refresh, and then log. So we're not getting any post here, and if we try to go to our post, we have one record. So let's try to check our code here. So index.blade.php, and we have here if greater than 1, and we have one record right now, so it should be greater than 0. So refresh. So there you go. We have the image, and then we have the title here, and also the written on information. And in this video, we're going to continue working on with our image feature. So in the previous video, we have added the display image and actually added the feature of uploading an image by creating a post. So when adding a post, we now have the option to browse an image and then include that image and save that into our database. So now let's continue working on with this. So if we try to view the actual post, so we want to also add the image here in the individual post. So let's go back to our code editor and try to add that. So this is the index.blade.php, and then we're just going to open up the show.blade.php. So in here we have we're displaying the post title and the post body of our post. So again, we're just going to add the image on top of our post. So in order for us to do that, let's just add a div here. So this will be, I think, before the body tag. So div, and then this will be row, and another column or div for our column. So call md12, and then we're just going to add the image here, where you can just copy the tag coming from here. So and then the width is 100%, and then we're getting the actual or the physical image coming from our cover underscore images directory. So let's try to preview this and refresh. So now we have the image, so the title, and then the image of our post, and of course the body of our post, and then the meta information, which is the written on with the date. Okay, so another thing for this feature is that we need to add this in our create or edit, because for now we don't have the element to edit or update the image that has been uploaded. So let's go back to our code editor and add the file element in here. So the same with the create.blade.php, we're just going to copy this form group and then edit. Here edit.blade.php, and just before the submission of the page, we can paste the cover image file input element. And then of course we need to change the something here for our ink type. So it should be, of course, multi-part form data. So we're just going to copy this one and paste it here. So ink type equals this multi-part slash form dash data. So we're just going to save this and refresh our page to show that we have already added the input file element. So refresh. So in here we have now the browse file input element. We need to add some logic into our edit function from our post controller. So let's go ahead and try to open up our post controller.php, and inside here in our edit function, so we're going to add the logic of our edit function. Or actually, we're not editing the function edit, we're actually going to modify the update function. So all we have to do here is, I think we just have to copy all the logic that we have in the store function. So validate and then update. Okay, so we're just going to paste here the validation, and of course all the logic that will handle our file upload. So this is going to be a bit different from the store logic, because we're not going to have this line here, which means that we don't want to update when the user has not uploaded the image. So remove that, and then we're just going to have another check here if the user has submitted the file or uploaded the file. So the request, if the request has file, so another cover image here, that's the name of our file input element, and then we're just going to get or set the cover image by using the file name to store. So okay, and save this. So refresh, view first the post. So we have here the post, and then we have the actual post, and then we can edit that one. And if you try to submit without selecting any image, then we can just update the post but not updating the image right here. But let's try to update the image. So let's browse another image and then open and then submit. Post has been updated, and as you can see, the image here has been updated also because we have updated or uploaded an image coming from our edit page. So the next thing is our delete. Okay, so if you try to go to our post and we have this delete, so whenever we have to delete this post, we want to actually delete also this file coming from our project. So if we try to open up our project in our browser, or I mean our file directory, we can see that we have here the public, and then storage, and then the cover images. So these are the uploaded files in our project, right? So whenever a user wants to delete the post, we would also want our project to actually delete these files right here. So in order for us to do that, let's go back to our post controller and edit the delete function or destroy function right here. So we're going to bring in first the storage library. So we're going to use illuminate /support and then \passage \storage. Okay, and then in our destroy function below, so we're going to check if the user has uploaded the file for this particular post. So that will be if this post cover image is not equal to post, and then user, I mean not equal to no image .jpeg or jpg. So this will be our default image when the user has not uploaded a file for their particular post. So we don't want this to be deleted if the user hasn't uploaded a file. So this will be storage and then delete. So we're going to public and then cover images, and of course the actual file name of our cover image. So save this and then try to delete this post. Post has been removed or removed, and as you can see, the image from the cover images directory has been deleted. One last concern also is if we try to go to our blog and add post. So say for example, we're going to add first post here, first post, body of first post, and then we're going to browse an image. Okay, submit, and also another one. So second post, body of second post, and then we're not going to browse or upload an image here. So submit. So as you can see, we have here a broken image icon, which means that the user has not uploaded image for this particular post. So we don't want that, and we want to have a default image here. So, or default no image. So let's go and search for no image picture so that we will be able to have a default no image here. So after finding a default no image, so make sure to copy and paste that in your cover_images directory. And this is what I have chosen from the new no image default, and the file name is .jpg. So we should be able to display this in our page. So make sure to change this also to the right file extension, and then save, and then refresh. So there you go, we have now the no available image as our default image of our post. So I think that's all there is to it for this tutorial, and this will end our tutorial for beginners tutorial. And I hope you have learned something from this series and in these videos. So thank you for watching our videos, and if you're new here in our YouTube channel and you want content about programming knowledge, and more, so I am inviting you to subscribe and press the notification bell so you'll get updated whenever we have a new upload. Thanks.